Listen up, get ready, I'm not gonna take no more. There's a revolution, a revelation going on in my soul. Buckle up, get ready, we're not gonna sit back.
Hey, and all power to the people. I'm Michael James here with Live from the Heartland for the week of August 19th. And we, just so you know, we are recording this on the Wednesday, the 16th. And I'm really glad to bring on a member of the new SDS, Liz Rathburn, who is a member of SDS over at the University of Illinois, Chicago. And I'm proud to say that I was a member of the National Interim Committee of the original Students for Democratic Society. And it really makes my heart jump around that we have young people now adopting that name and carrying on the struggle for a better America, a better world. So how are you doing today, Liz?
Doing fantastic. Feels good to be in the struggle.
Right on. Well, the way this came about with me inviting you was a friend of both of ours, Joe Osbaker. He sent out a thing about the Tampa 5, and there was a demonstration downtown here in Chicago in support of the Tampa 5, which it turns out are 5 students at the University of South Florida who attempted to talk to the president of the university there about the Governor DeSantis's attempt to basically ban diversity studies on campuses. Diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives all over Florida. This guy is out of control, and some people asked some questions about it. How about you fill us in a little bit on the Tampa 5, what the issues are, what's going on, and then we'll talk about SDS.
When it comes to the Tampa 5, this all got started back in March when some students at the University of South Florida were just peacefully demonstrating, doing the sort of thing that we do almost every day with SDS. They decided when, Florida's governor, that fascist Ron DeSantis, was, trying to ban DEI offices, that they wanted their university to take a stand. And in response, the university started essentially sending in the police to beat on protesters. They then arrested 4 of them initially, then a 5th one about 2 weeks later. Those are Chris Lee Carpio, Gia Davia, Lauren Pinero, and Laura Rodriguez, as well as Jeannie Kay, who prefers to not be identified more publicly. But yeah, basically those protesters are now facing up to 10 years in prison for literally just peacefully protesting. There is no real evidence that they've done anything. Even when they were being arrested, it took them 3 hours to get their story straight, the police to get their story straight and take them over to the police station to be booked. They are very clearly trying to rig this. There have been several court dates so far. This most recent demonstration was over their 2nd court date, where the process of discovery was started, and then also now we are kind of in the sort of a countdown to their actual trial, which is going to be in December. These activists have been, on the day itself, brutalized, groped, beaten, and just generally abused. And after that, they were threatened with expulsion. One of them was the faculty advisor to new SDS at FSU, and she has now been fired. Her union, AFSCME, has, denounced this because it's completely not within their contract. It is a complete violation of her rights as a working person. And unions across the country have also joined with them in condemning that. But yeah, essentially, this is an attack on the right to protest, an attack on diversity in education, and national SDS in dozens of cities, every time the national call gets put out, has been mobilizing.
I read an article in Axios about this, and one of the things that they brought up was that the lawyer for these 5, the Tampa 5, named Michelle Lambo, has another case, and where basically the person got off, but she said that the police behavior mirrored the earlier case. And apparently the videos show one thing, and the police and their attempts to alter the situation have made other claims and other reports.
That's just right. And now they're trying to hide those videos. They're suddenly claiming that very important camera angles, those cameras just mysteriously weren't working that day, which I'm sure that's completely above board. Yeah.
How big an issue is this on the campus, and how, I mean, it's a big university, and I don't know how big the chapter is or how much impact they've had, but do you have any sense about support on the campus, other protests going on around in Florida around this?
Oh, yes, absolutely. There have been statewide mobilizations around this. Groups in I think, Tallahassee, Jacksonville, Orlando, Tampa, and plenty of other areas across the country have all been, mobilizing around this. We've now made, at least on the campuses where we're active, Tampa 5, almost a household name because, we believe that the only way we can beat this political repression is to mobilize masses of people out and get them in the street and keep them there until the charges are dropped. We don't want this to go to trial because we don't think they're going to get a fair trial. They're completely innocent. They've not done anything wrong, but we want the charges dropped. And, we've managed to mobilize. I mean, here in Chicago, we got, I think, 70, 80 people out. Our first rally for the Tampa 5. Nobody knew what the Tampa 5 was before that. People are ready to fight back against this. They're ready to fight back against DeSantis now that he's taken his agenda nationwide. Yeah.
Well, he's something else. I tell you, he just, I don't know how he thinks he's going to would ever win. I think that what someone mentioned the other day, which is probably on, right on, is that he is not really so much thinking he's going to get a nomination for this next presidential election, but the one after that. And I think I've said on this show many times that this guy is more dangerous than Trump. Liz, how about filling us in on SDS and what it's doing? I don't know a lot about the new SDS. I always love seeing the letters and knowing that there are people out there who are carrying on student protest. And obviously these people will be carrying on fights for justice and peace and harmony, et cetera, in many years to come. So give us a little wrap on the current new SDS.
Yeah, for sure. New SDS was founded back in 2006 by some old SDSers, but mostly student anti-war activists who were ready to fight around Iraq and wanted to revive, one of the most successful mass anti-war movements, in living memory. And so they went with SDS as a name. Now in SDS, we have, I think, getting close to 40 chapters around the country at different universities, high schools as well, actually. Recently, our big campaign nationwide has been around defending diversity in education. During the 1960s and 70s, we had a real unprecedented wave of, student uprisings that won, real gains in terms of ethnic studies, diversity, equity, and inclusion programs, affirmative action stuff. That has been slowly chipped away, and now those attacks are just intensifying. In Florida and Texas, they have started to ban ethnic studies and DEI programs. I think in other states too. They just can't think of them off the top of my head. But yeah, so we've mobilized nationwide around that. Here in Chicago, our big focus recently was kicking our CIA chapter off campus. They had a special agreement with UIC. It was a whole signature school thing. Basically, they wanted to recruit students of a more diverse background to basically destroy more diverse countries. So that's fun. But yeah, essentially we won that. We kicked them off. And so now we're moving on to black enrollment, which UIC's black enrollment is currently sitting around 7%, which in a city that is, almost a third black is just frankly shocking and absurd. The university can do better. It should do better. Instead, it spends millions of dollars on privatization. It continually cracks down on its workforce, and it, is basically doing everything it can to ignore the mass outcry of students who, want to see UIC do better. Our most recent, victory around the country has been around issues like this. So we've been pressuring universities in Texas, in Denver, in I think Seattle now too. Yeah, all around the country to fight around these issues because we think students are ready to protect the gains that we won in the 1960s.
Uh, Let me ask you about your chapter at the University of Illinois Chicago. Uh, are there other progressive or radical groups in the Black student community or the Latino student community, Asian, LGBT that are progressive? Are there other groups on campus? And do you guys work together at all?
Absolutely, yeah. No, we probably have the closest working relationship with the Filipino Patriotic Student Group, Anak Bayan, but we also work with our Black Student Union, our chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine, and we've done some outreach also to some of the other ethnic groups on campus, though a lot of them are relatively more focused on cultural stuff at the moment, but all progressive political groups, yeah. But in terms of just a broad multi-issue group, STS is kind of the only game in town on campus. But we always are happy to work with anyone who can. We like I don't know if you know Frank Chapman, but I like his saying, "There's no such thing as a united front of ideas." You can't unite with people who only agree with you. You got to unite with people who you can get together and actually, make change with.
Yeah, we had Frank on the show a while back. He's done a lot of great work. University of Illinois Chicago, I remember back in the early days when it was over at Navy Pier. It took over a lot of land. There were a lot of issues building the university. We are in a blue state, and as much as we are still struggling about certain things, we can be glad about the state we're in. But I'm curious to know the basic tone of the student politics at the University of Illinois Chicago. Would you, and kids in general, are they, and I say kids lovingly, but they're younger than me. And I'm just wondering if, where people are at. Do they tend to talk politics? Do they care about politics? Are there other issues on campus? Or what's your sense of the campus, the student body there?
In terms of USC student body, a big part of it is how incredibly diverse it is. USC is about, I think less than a third white, and a lot of the campus politics gets tinged because of that with the specific issues of immigration, race, and especially things around international issues. So, for instance, there was a lot of discussion when the United States was threatening to intervene in Haiti last year, uh, and we decided to mobilize around that. But in terms of our generation more broadly, I think and I'm not alone in this. You know, People are ready for change. It's like we can see that we are living in an empire in decline, that, things are getting worse for us generation after generation. A lot of us, saw campaigns like Bernie Sanders or were, involved in the George Floyd uprisings in 2020. That's how I really got more directly involved. Um, and saw that, wow, there is a real possibility of change, that the fact that this beast that we're inside of right now can it isn't just something to cry about and get high about. It's something to organize around, and
Yeah, well,
people are ready for it.
we're in the guts of the ogre and the belly of the beast.
Damn right.
And uh, you know, it's really important. I don't know where you guys are at on voting, but I moved from movement politics to having to deal with electoral politics, and I know that the youth vote has always been crucial, and it's particularly crucial today. And if you looked at the figures around Brandon Johnson in his victory as the mayor in Chicago, he had a lot of young people turn out. It was really the cutting edge deal.
You'll be happy to know SDS was right there out knocking doors for I think a good month before the election, both for district council candidates and for Brandon Johnson himself. Yeah, it was a good time. I remember getting up way too early in the morning, hopping down on a train to go to the South Side to help with the Get Out to Vote campaign with what you call it, Carver, the Chicago Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression. people are, wanting to use every tool they got. And so we're going to keep using them. That means the button box too.
Right on. Liz Rathburn, this is great talking to you. We're going to run out of time, but I would like to ask you a little bit about where you come from and how you got involved. You mentioned the George Floyd demonstrations and the general uprisings and concern around that issue a couple of years back. But I do like stories of how people become part of SDS, where they came from and what led them in that direction.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it was a pretty direct pipeline. My dad was always into, radical politics. He was in the Committee in Solidarity with the People of El Salvador back in the 80s. We had a bunch of stuff around the apartment. If I ever needed a good radical book to read, I knew who to ask. It was my pops. We started, I really started getting involved in politics during 2020, because I was relatively far on the north side. I would ride my bike down, basically every day, because every day there was a protest. And of course, if you're doing that, odds are you're going to get, pretty beat up by the police at some point. And that happened to me a couple times. And I saw organizers from especially the Chicago Alliance, but also SDS, right there standing shoulder to shoulder with me, organizing alongside me. And I was like, well, shoot, that's the thing to join. If you're blinking tear gas at your eyes and you can only see one thing, that's the one to get with. And so when I went to UIC, I saw we had an SDS chapter. I got involved right from the jump and haven't looked back. And I've been involved in SDS for about 2 years. Yeah, and now we're hosting our national convention here, which hopefully it's not going to go like the last Chicago convention, but we can only pray.
I got photographed tipping over a paddy wagon, which stuck with me all my life. Got a lot of press on it. And when is your convention going to happen?
Yeah, it's going to be October 14th to 15th at the University of Illinois at Chicago. Yeah, we're going to have a lot of great speakers, folks from the union movement, movement for community control of the police, and just a lot of great speakers. Yeah, it's going to be good.
Liz, is there anything that I haven't asked you that you want to get out here to the masses who will be listening and watching?
I guess the only thing is just call if you're a young person who's listening to this to get organized. SDS is always looking for more folks to join up, more campuses to start organizing on. We are happy to get involved with anything you can do. Talk to us, email us, Instagram us, whatever you want to use, and we will help you along the way.
How do people get a hold of you if they wanted to reach out to you?
Absolutely. Yeah. For National SDS, it's just National SDS on Instagram or newsds.org. Or for our local organizations, it's SDS at UIC at Instagram. It's also on Twitter as well, I think. But yeah, we're always happy to get messages from folks. Yeah.
Well, a change is going to come, as our early button said in the old days. And we know it's happening. It's always happening, and it's going in a good direction in large part, not everywhere. And we need more people like you. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much for joining us on Live from the Heartland.
Thank you for having me. Right on.